Today is June the 4th. Are we to hold each other accountable? Well, let's see what Paul says about that. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 5 to 13. But if anyone has caused grief, he's caused it not to me, but to some extent, not to exaggerate it, to all of you. This punishment by the majority is enough for such a person. So now instead, you should forgive and console him so that he may not be overwhelmed by even worse grief. So I urge you to reaffirm your love for him. I wrote for this reason, to test you and know whether you're obedient in everything. Anyone whom you forgive, I also forgive. In fact, what I have already forgiven, if I've forgiven anything, has been for your sake in the presence of Christ. And we do this so that we may not be outwitted by Satan, for we're not ignorant of his designs. When I came to Troas to proclaim the good news of Christ, a door was open for me in the Lord, but my mind could not rest because I didn't find my brother Titus there. So I said farewell to them and went on to Macedonia. Now in this paragraph, Paul is apparently talking about an individual, but the question is, who? Well, this individual that he mentions from verses 5 to verse 11 might have been the man that Paul mentions in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. There was a man who was sleeping with his father's wife. Paul said, turn him over to Satan. Now, it could be that the painful visit when Paul went to Corinth, he actually carried that out. He excommunicated the man. He told him he was no longer welcome to come to the community of believers. Now, the purpose of turning the man over to Satan, according to 1 Corinthians, was to save his soul, even if it put him in physical difficulty for a while. If 2 Corinthians chapter 2 refers to that man, Paul says the purpose of turning him over to Satan was actually fulfilled. He's repented, or in other words, as Paul states, his punishment was sufficient. He now encourages them to receive him back into the fold and to forgive him like Paul has done. But we don't know for sure if it was that man. It could also be a particular leader in the church or a false teacher in the church who has insulted Paul. Well, again, Paul says, I've forgiven him for what he has said. You should forgive him too. No matter who it is, the message is the same. Paul says it is Satan who is trying to divide you, and Satan actually caused this. We must forgive and comfort the sinner so that the sinner is not overwhelmed. You know, this sounds very much like Leviticus 19, a restatement of the Ten Commandments in a new way. Let's read Leviticus 19, 1 to 18.
Leviticus 19, verses 1 through 18, New Revised Standard Edition.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to all the congregation of the Israelites, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. You shall each revere your mother and father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Do not turn to idols, or make cast images for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you offer a sacrifice of well-being to the Lord, offer it in such a way that it is acceptable on your behalf. It shall be eaten on the same day you offer it, or on the next day, and anything left over until the third day shall be consumed in fire. If any of it is eaten on the third day, it is an abomination. It will not be accepted. All who eat it shall be subject to punishment, because they have profaned what is holy to the Lord, and any such person shall be cut off from the people. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very edges of your fields, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not strip your vineyards bare, or gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the alien. I am the Lord your God. You shall not steal, you shall not deal falsely, and you shall not lie to one another. You shall not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not defraud your neighbor, you shall not steal, and you shall not keep for yourselves the wages of a laborer until morning. You shall not revile the deaf, or put a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am the Lord. You shall not render an unjust judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor, or defer to the great. With justice you shall judge your neighbor. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand idly by when the blood of your neighbor is at stake. I am the Lord. You shall not hate in your heart any one of your kin. You shall reprove your neighbor, or you will incur guilt yourself. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
Leviticus 19 does not repeat the Ten Commandments verbatim, but it represents the Ten Commandments. Now, it starts out with the command to not make false idols, not follow other gods, and to honor your father and mother. But it starts out by saying, do this, because I, the Lord, am holy, and I ask you to be holy. Now, after those commandments that have to do with God, he then represents the final 6 commands. Don't defraud people. Don't kill anyone. Don't cheat them. Don't lie to them. And he ends with, love your neighbor as you love yourself. But he also gives a call to hold your neighbor accountable to the law. Reprove your neighbor, Moses says. Now, this is exactly what Paul is doing here in 2 Corinthians 2, 5-13. He's saying, hold each other accountable, but you do that to win each other back. Once you have won each other back, forgive. What do we do about this today? Well, is there anyone that you need to hold accountable? Scripture reading from the New Revised Standard Version by Andy Herrera. Once a week, New Hope Church uploads its sermon from the previous Sunday. Just the sermon. You can find it on our YouTube channel, New Hope Church Greenwood IN, or any of our podcast channels.